Nice. Alrighty. Hey, thanks for showing up. Actually, I should probably look at my topics too here, see if I had anything outstanding. What's this thing? Okay. Hey, chicken. Thanks for showing up. I am making a chicken right now. Call this a cubimal chick. And I'm assuming everybody's all set up on R8. So when I go into live render Boolean mode, we can go in here and do all sorts of fun stuff now with the new Gizmo and the new live Booleans and the new all sorts of cool stuff. There we go. Crease. Crease, crease, crease. Let me see, geometry. I think I have everything set up, although maybe not. I've been kind of hopping back and forth between home and work. There we go. Let's go ahead and crease these things. Made some slight modifications. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Right now I'm just kind of going through and doing some quick subdividing here, using my crease tolerance to go ahead. And you know what? This beak is a little too pointy here, and I don't even like that cone very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to go into my gear here, and I'm going to choose another cone. And with that cone chosen, let's go into solo mode here. I can just kind of quickly dial in how many spans and how many spans I want. So I think that'll be a little bit better. Actually, let's put in a few more this away, because I'm going to end up chopping that end of that nose off there. So if I like that, I think that'll work. So I'm just going to hit Q, and let's go ahead and shake this nose and delete hidden. And now if I hover over this with my ZModeler brush, we'll go ahead and do a close convex hole. Let's see if I can't. It's got too many spans here. That's okay. We can just move this thing out. And let's go ahead and turn on X symmetry as well. And this is also going to center that cone along there. So let's do, maybe we should do a cylinder. Let's do a cylinder. I think that'll be fine. I can pull these out in a radius. So we'll say we like that, and then we'll see if we can taper this thing. There we go. Now we're talking. That's kind of the beak I'm looking for. So we'll go ahead and say I like that. We'll accept it all. And now let's go ahead and cap this off. So you see we'll close, concave hole, convex hole. And we'll just run. And to get this smooth a little bit better, let's go ahead and drop, insert a single edge loop here. And then we'll go in here and we'll do inset flat island region. We'll kind of put one in there. There we go. Let me put my microphone closer to my mouth. Is that any better? Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. When using ZModeler, why does that polycube just sit in the open tray? So ZModeler by default has, so let's see, a couple cool things about the new R8. If you haven't upgraded to R8, I suggest you upgrade to R8. If you want to have some videos on R8, I have a playlist going here. Let me start spamming you guys. I guess you can just get this direct link here. So this one here will take you through a bunch of the new features. I haven't gotten all the way through. There's some odds and ends and deformers I need to hit up. But speaking of the Nanomesh stuff, so we got a subtool here. or I'm sorry, geometry, reconstruct. Go ahead and delete higher, delete lower. So with the ZModeler brush, if I go to, BZM, we got our ZModeler brush. If I hover over a face and we go to insert nanomesh, polygroup all, by default, it's just going to drag out that cube. Now and that's the cube I'm talking about. I can go in here and choose other things. If I hit M, I can grab, I think, any of these primitives, or, like that beak we just added. I can actually grab that beak, and that'll go ahead and replace that cube up there. So you can insert any object. However, you can also go over here to brush, create nanomesh brush. So if you have a brush, let's go to B, I want to find a simpler one that's not too crazy. We'll go to insert multi-mesh basics. I'm going to tap this one and see all these shapes that it has. If I go to create nanomesh brush, what that's going to do is if I hit B key now, you're going to see I have a brand new ZModeler brush down here. So if I go BZ, you're going to see here's my original ZModeler brush, BZM, and then here's my new one. When I hit that create insert nanomesh brush, it basically put all of these brushes right up here into a ZModeler with insert nanomesh already activated. So now I can go polygroup all, and I can select any of these and go ahead and drop those in there. So that would be why BZM has, well, it's supposed to be a cube, but I replaced it with a beak. And again, like I said, you can replace that with all sorts of things that you want to, if you're so inclined. But if you want to make a nanomesh brush with a bunch of stuff in it by default, then you can just use the new brush, create, insert nanomesh, and now you'll have a bunch of things you can go in here and swap these things out. If you're making multiple nanomeshes over here, so if I grab this nanomesh here, let's go ahead and grab all these down here, hit Control W, and that'll fill those with another polygroup. So now when I hovered over this face and hit insert nanomesh polygroup all, it's only going to respect these polygroups. So I can hover over this face, polygroup a single poly, tap, hold down Shift, and then tap Shift, and now I can kind of put these polygroups where I want. And then if I want to insert on these polygroups, what I need to do with my ZModeler brush here, I can now start dragging out. I'm going to want to go to insert nanomesh polygroup all, and you're also okay, it's okay. So when you're on this one, you can go ahead and insert another one. It'll go ahead and give you a new index. If you wanted to use these again, you're going to want to hold down Shift when you drag out, and now you can drag out multiple nanomeshes on one polygroup here. And that'll still give you another index, but that'll just allow you to reuse the same polygroup again. But if you're not using a polygroup, if you're using a separate polygroup, you don't have to hold down Shift. It'll just grab you a new index. So this is the next one. That's index 2. And now we're nanomeshing away. Thanks for your support, Livizix. And also thanks for showing up. Thanks everybody for showing up. And we'll kind of go through some of the questions today. If you guys have any questions, and I'll just be modeling otherwise. Hey, how do you guys organize your ZTool save files? That would be, that's another cool thing actually. So if we go, okay, let's do this. So if we go over here to, so we made these nanomeshes here. So let's go to nanomesh, and we'll go to inventory. We'll go one to mesh. And now we can get rid of this grid plane here. So Control Shift, select that. And for this grid plane here, if you hold down Control Shift and you tap on one polygroup or a vertice that is only contained by one polygroup, it'll isolate that polygroup. If you do it with two polygroups, it'll do both of the polygroups. And if we hover over this thing, we do ZModeler polygroup single poly, and we make this a new polygroup here. If you do one with 3, it'll do all 3. So. And it also looks like I accidentally polygrouped that gear here. So we'll go ahead and isolate that. We'll go ahead and delete hidden. And now we can go ahead and I'm going to isolate that one, and we'll split hidden. And all these, delete hidden is geometry modified topology. Split hidden is under split, subtool split. And now we can actually put, you know what, I probably should have kept that plane around. But that's okay, because all I got to do is go back to append plane. I'm going to hold down Shift and shoot that to the top. One thing that they changed in the subtools here is if you used to be able to, like, if you could just tap this eyeball off, it would turn all the eyeballs off. Now you have to hold down Shift and touch the eyeball to turn these all off and on, which I think is a little bit better. If you're not used to that, it might be a little weird that you're touching eyeball accidentally and turning everything off. So Shift to turn everything on and off if you have a subtool selected. Let's go ahead and reconstruct and then delete higher, and then we'll use our ZModeler brush, QMesh, polygroup all, and we'll just pull this back. And then I'll go ahead and flip my normals there, which for you guys will be under display properties and flip. So now that we have that, we can now use our live Boolean system. And if I want to, speaking of organizations and the whole start group thing, I can go ahead and make a start group for this. And let's go ahead and I'm going to do a merge visible here. And then I'm going to append that merged, come on, there we go. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to go to split to group split. So now I'm going to have two start groups here. It's got this one here, and then this one I'll move down. Oh, you know what? When I split this apart, I forgot I had polygroups here. So no biggie. It just gave me a border for this thing here. So now I can just go through here and I'll just remake this thing here. So we'll QMesh polygroup all back and then flip that. So now I've got my two start groups here. And now if I can turn on auto collapse, that'll go ahead and auto collapse these start groups. And you can also use, if you turn off the eyeball, hold down Shift and turn off the eyeball, that'll turn off all the polygroups here. And if we turn off the eyeball, let's turn off that one here. If you go here, it should go ahead and, yeah, it'll turn off the eyeball for all of these things. I guess it's kind of hard to tell because I used the exact same thing, which was dumb. But let's go ahead and delete that one, delete that one. I'm going to go into solo mode here. Let's hold down Control Shift. We'll hit Control W to make this a new polygroup, and I'm going to use my Nanomesh brush here. Insert Nanomesh. You know what? Let's use the new one we made. ZModeler here. Let's get these macaroni noodles, and we'll go to Insert Nanomesh Polygroup All. And when you drag these out, you're going to see they're all over the place. So you can go down here to Alignment and align to normal, or you can also go over here to Modify Topology, and you can do Align Edge, and that'll go ahead and make them a little bit more consistent. So now we've got our macaroni noodle here. Let's go ahead and say one to mesh, and then we'll go ahead and isolate these, split those off, split hidden, and we'll make this not a start group. So we'll go ahead and just make that subtractive. We'll go back to this one, make both of these subtractive, and now when I go out of solo mode here, we can move these back in. You can also move multiple. So if I want to move both of these subtools back, all I got to do is go to this move, transpose all selected subtools here. And then if I'm in my Gizmo here, I'm going to do Control Shift, and that'll just, if I Control Shift swipe, that'll take away all the selections because by default, everything's selected. If I hold down Control Shift and tap, it'll go ahead and remove selections here. So I can go ahead and just tap this backplane here. So now I have the gears and the little round things. I can push those back in here. And then because they're a subtractive mesh, when I do my hotkey for my live Boolean here, and actually while you're in this, go ahead and Control Shift swipe to deselect and then turn that off so it's not leaving you hatch marks behind. And then we should be able to, let me see. There we go. And this one's subtracted. There we go. So now I'm pushing these back individually now. So you can move them back all at once. You can move them back individually. And you can use your start groups as kind of a way to, if I select this start group now and I turn this one off, those will all disappear. And now I'm just messing with this one start group here. So good times with Nanomesh and Booleans. Cool. That's true. I'll keep practicing with my chickens. I'll get there. Speaking of chickens, here's our chicken we got. We rounded off his beak. His beak's still looking a little bit sharp here. I'm going to turn off polyframe and live Boolean here. Shift D to go out of dynamic here. And let's go ahead. I'm going to take this, insert single edge loop, and hold down Alt, and just get rid of that thing, kind of round that off a little bit more. Because I know I put that in there to kind of help that smoothing, but I think we'll be okay. And there we go. Now we got that. And now we can go ahead and touch these ones, hit D, dynamic, and they're already dynamically subdivided, but that needs to be softer. So what I'm going to do is, here's a cool thing. So if I go to solo mode here, I'm going to hold out Control for mask pin or mask lasso. And when I go to mask this, what I basically want to do is leave this unmasked. So I'm going to mask, but then hold down Alt. And now I don't have to, like, in the old days, it has to be like, okay, you can mask, Control tap to unmask. Now you can just hold down Control, and you can use spacebar to move this thing around, and then hold down Alt, and that'll just leave that unmasked. So now I can hit W, I can hold down Alt and make this go to Unmesh Mesh Center, and because I have X symmetry turned on, it's going to go to the local axis center, which in this case is fine, and now I can kind of shrink these things down. And I can also go in here. Let's go ahead and do, I'm going to do uncrease all because I want to soften these transitions out, and I can manually put in control loops to kind of get these to subdivide the way I want. I'm going to change smooth subdivides up to 3, and I'm going to go to uncrease all, which for you guys will be under crease, uncrease all here. So if I do Shift D, now I can go through here and go, okay, I want this side to be pretty sharp, so I'm going to go to insert single edge loop here, and I have Z intensity set to 25. I'm going to turn that down to 1 or 0, so that way it doesn't bubble out when I'm inserting these loops here. And then I want this side to be pretty sharp. So now if I hit D, you're going to see now I'm starting to get that wing shape that I was looking for. And I can just go in here while it's subdivided, and I can kind of just start playing, playing with, there we go. So I can make this a little bit sharper on this end, but I want that gradual fall off here. So I think what I'm going to do is just make this a bit thicker here. There we go. And that'll be my wing for now. Although I can, looks like maybe if I start passing insert single edge loops, I can kind of round these out just a bit here. And if I want to also, I can go in here with, let's undo that. Let's do insert single edge loop. And again, I am gonna put a little bit of Z intensity in it to kind of bubble that out. And now when I hit D, it'll kind of round those out just a little bit. And then I can turn that back down to Z intensity of 0. And if I want to make these transitions a little sharper on the top, I can now go in here to, let's just grab any of these edges, insert single edge loop here, and we can kind of just, this will make it super sharp. This will start dialing in the sharpness here, so we'll do the top and the bottom here just to kind of sharpen them up just a tad, keep this back. All right, I think we're good to go. Cool, cool, cool. How'd you go about cleaning? And again, if I miss any questions while I'm going along, just keep shouting them out. Take a glance over here and I might miss some. I have before. How'd you go about cleaning a mesh for unwrapping animation after using light booleans? Would it be better just to use that mesh as a high poly that needs retopologizing? I know there's some instances where if I use a mesh like live boolean, I haven't had a chance to kind of go through there and do a whole bunch of test cases yet. I'm still making high reses at work. But if we go ahead and we turn on Alt-R here, let's go ahead and make this guy a live boolean real quick. I'm going to make it a little bit more complex. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be, I'm going to duplicate off, that beak seems really big. Okay, when we remade this thing, it made that really big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into solo mode. We're going to do Shift D. I'm going to Control Alt. Hold on, let me go to mask pin here. We're going to Control, there we go. And I'm going to go to Unmesh Mesh Center here. I'm going to turn off X so I can kind of just put that right in there and then unmask. And now it's right at the base pivot. And now I can go out of solo mode here. We're going to pull this out. And let's turn on, okay, sticky is turned on. So let's turn off sticky. There we go. And now we can kind of scale this back to where it's supposed to be, which is about yay big. So if I wanted to, I can go ahead and duplicate this one off, and I'll make this a subtractive mesh first. So first I'm going to cut in, and then I'm going to have this one sit there. So we can do that as a subtractive mesh here. And let's go ahead and just go to deformation inflate, and we can kind of just inflate a little area around that nose there. And if I want that nose to be separate, I can Alt-tap it, hold down Shift, shoot it to the bottom, and make a new start group. So that way I can always just pop that nose out later. Also, let's do the same thing for the wings here. So we've got X turned on, so I can just kind of move these in. And before that, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this wing off. I'm going to take this first one. We're going to make that subtractive, and I'll just go in here and inflate. And that'll kind of put a little slot for those wings to go in. So we've got our little bird here, and now I can go to my subtool, Boolean, and now we are using dynamic subdiv, so let's go ahead and turn that on. We'll make Boolean mesh. So we have our union mesh here, and this is our topology, and it's basically keeping our exact, and we have our we had two star groups, and now the nose is separate, and then this guy is all separate now. If you were to bake this off, I have had some possible issues with, you know, long triangles and stuff, having a little bit of a problem with the baking. You might have to kind of play with that. If in a pinch, what you can do is just go over here to turn on project, turn off, you can maybe keep project on, but you can Dynamesh this thing and then just run a polish, and that'll go ahead and let me turn off live Boolean as well. So now with this thing all Dynameshed, it should bake fine, and if you want to bevel everything a little bit, you can go just throw a little polish in there, and that'll kind of soften those transitions as well. And obviously when I went to Boolean, I could either Boolean at a lower resolution and then smooth manually later on, or you can just go in here and do a higher resolution dynamic subdiv when you're going through there. This will bake fine. It'll bake really sharp. As far as making a game res mesh, you can try on a complex mesh like this. It might not work that great, but you can try going through here and splitting. Let's actually do a group by normals, and then we'll do mirror and weld across the X. And now you can turn on, let's give it a shot. Let's go ahead and duplicate this mesh off, and hold down Shift just so we're isolating this one here. And if we go down here to ZRemesher, you can turn on keep groups. Turn smooth groups all the way down. Adaptive size, I'm not quite sure what the best one to set that at. I'll set it at 12, and I think that'll be good. So we'll just hit ZRemesh, and now it's going to go through here. Now this one's kind of complex because it does go into a hole and back out around, and it's got a bunch of holes in here. So it is going to be, and it's going to want to try to keep everything quads. So it might be easier to go in and manually retopologize this thing, or you can use, you can manually retopologize, or you can split these things out if it makes it any easier. Like you can do Control Shift A, because the wings never touch, so you can go ahead and pop those out. So we can go ahead and split hidden here. And you know, that's another case where keeping start groups might be a good idea, is having that ability to kind of, you know, pop the feet out into its own mesh, pop the legs out into its own mesh, and then you just sit here and have this thing separate, so you'd have a little box built in. So really you'd only have a pretty simple mesh here, where ZRemesh might actually do a good job, because it wouldn't have too much surface changes to kind of keep nice for you, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, actually doing chain link, I think did we ever go over that? It would be really easy. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. That's kind of a fun one. So if we go over here to our streaming, do I have, yeah, ZBrush female. Let's give our ZBrush female some chain link with Nanomesh. We'll give her a whole chain link vest in 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes here. Actually, you know what? She doesn't actually have a body. Let me delete all that. Let's go to our, I know where somebody does have a body still, and that would be this guy that I haven't touched in a long time. Let's see where we left him at. You go way back in my streams, you'll find this guy here. There we go. So let's go ahead and grab him. I'm going to go ahead and delete other. There we go. So if I take this guy here, I'll go ahead and duplicate him off, go into solo mode, and now we'll go ahead and hit, there's something weird going on with this, hold on. Oh, there's another thing too. You can go to brush, And with Control held down, I can reset current brush. So instead of resetting all brushes, I can just reset the current brush. So if your brushes are ever feeling a little bit weird, just go in there and reset that. So we'll go ahead and give him a little chain link shawl. And I just got to dial in where I want this chain link to go. So now I'm going to hit Control W, isolate this. We'll go ahead and delete hidden. Oops, let's delete lower subdivisions, and now we can delete hidden. Geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. I'm going to go ahead, so ZRemesher doesn't feel the need to build in these alias parts here. Let's go ahead and go to masking, to just mask by border. If you want to kind of give it a little bit more breathing room, you can grow your mask and then invert it, and then you can go to your deformations. We'll just do a polish by features, open circle, just to really smooth that end out there. So now we can go to, I don't care about projecting this back to my mesh at all, so I can just go ahead and replace this with my ZRemesh. We'll do, I want nice even quads, so I'm going to do adaptive size down to 0. And we'll do, I guess we'll just do half. We have X turned on, so it'll be symmetrical. And we'll go ahead and give this guy some nice even quads on his chain link shawl. Just keep hitting half here. And there might be more elegant ways to do this. I haven't actually made chain link for any real reason in my life, but in my brain I think this will work. So we'll go ahead, and we've got our surface all laid out. Now I can go ahead and make my own chain link manually. Heck, we might even be able to use the new Gizmo thing. Oh yeah, we got a ring in here, so we'll just make a quick ring. And that's actually a resolution I like, but if you don't like this, you can go in here and change the S radius and scale and coverage and length divides. We'll go ahead and make that as simple as possible, because if we're going to be doing Nanomesh, we probably want to have this thing pretty low if we're going to be making thousands of instances of these things. So now I can hit Q. We'll go back into Gizmo 3D, and now I can just hit, come on, there we go. Control drag to make a copy of this. And then if we unmask this, we can go ahead and rotate these out a little bit, and then control drag down, and then move these over. And we can kind of make these things interlink, hopefully. Looks like we may have dragged a little too far here. There we go. And now I'll go ahead and rotate these back, and I can hold down Alt and reset that, so I can just pull these along the world normal there. Let's go ahead and keep rotating that, I think. Okay, so now I can create, you know, ideally it would be a square one. I might have downloaded some. Let me see, brush, IMM. This might be easier. Do I have any chain link? Insert ring, cylinder, no. Trying to think. So there's a ZBrush repository. If you Google ZBrush repository for insert meshes, you'll have a bunch of chain link options that are already being made. So you can kind of check that out. But let's go ahead and grab these little pieces of these. Control Shift A, mask, or you know what? Well, we should probably, yeah, this will be easier. So Control Shift A, mask, bring everything back. Control Tab to invert that mask, and then Control Shift to go ahead and pull this down. I'm going to try and see if square is going to help us. So I'll go ahead and rotate these, hold down Alt to reset that, and then just pull that straight back in there. Something like that. So now we can make this a Nanomesh, and actually let's make sure this is going to be compatible, so we can control drag this over. Yes, control drag this up. No, it's not going to be compatible because these aren't going to link up. Let's simplify this then. Control drag down. Yes, those will link up. Control drag up. Yeah, those will link up. Control drag this way. They won't link up. This is a pain. Let's see, Control Shift A, delete hidden. Let's see if this will work. I guess if we go over one this way. I don't know. You'll get the idea. So once you're done playing with that, we'll go ahead and leave this out there. And now when we go back to our shawl, let me hit frame here. We can use BZM. And now instead of that gear, I'm going to do Insert Nanomesh Polygroup All. Then I'm going to hit M. and I'm going to grab that chain link thing, and then you can just drag these out onto the polygroups here. Let's also go in here, we were talking about earlier, the whole geometry, modify topology. Where are we at? There we go, modify topology, and we'll go ahead and align all these edges. And now you can kind of just drag those out until they start interlinking. You can go into your Nanomesh properties, and you can change the width, the length, the height, any of these variances you want to set. Usually chain link's pretty regular, so probably not too much. If you want to embed it a little bit, you can kind of drop that down. You can also use micro mesh if you wanted to replace each one of these, but I think Nanomesh is a little bit better because you can overshoot the size a little bit and make sure that they're interlinking properly, and then you'll have your chain link vest. Obviously, find a chain link that tiles correctly, but that'll be a pretty easy one. And this is also going to, since we have nice even quads, it'll look nice like so. But I can also go in here, because it is just a Nanomesh, I can go ahead and take this polygroup here that's driving it. If I go in here and use my move brush, it's just going to pull those instances around. So if I go in here and just, and start inflating that, that'll kind of also control where it kind of sits on your character here. And then you can hold down like our one to mesh here, and then get rid of the little thing behind it and get a little chain link going. Chainmail. Cool. Yeah, thank you for the link. If you go to that link there, you can go ahead and, so I've got most of the features going. I haven't gotten to, like I said before, deformations and a few loose odds and ends I need to clean up. I'm going to try and do that tonight. Let's finish those up. Yeah, you should be able to save files. That's a little bit weird. And mine has been pretty rock solid so far. I have completely, just to play it safe, I have completely remade my custom insert mesh and anything that was specific to R8. Whenever there's like a 4R7 P1, P2, P3, I can usually just migrate my changes over, but whenever I go to a full release later, I like to just remake everything just to make sure everything's nice and compatible. Is there a way to customize the primitive shells when using the Gizmo gear menu option? That one I don't think so. Not to my knowledge, at least not that I've found out yet. That's not to say I am an expert at all about anything ZBrush 4R8. I haven't been using it as long as I've been using R7, obviously. So how to modify these? I think if you were able to modify these, you might have to do a little deep digging. That might be something you have to go into some scripts or something to kind of change that. But that would be cool to, put helix in there or something. But yeah, polysphere, sphere, polycube, and then there's, I'm trying to remember, I thought there was 2 different types of polycubes in here. Or no, maybe I'm thinking of cylinder and polycylinder. So we got cylinder here. That's another thing too. So you can go in here with your cylinder and make all the changes that you want. We'll do an inner circle here. And then with this, if we do like that, we can go back to our Gizmo 3D. We can hold down Alt, and I can just tap this right here. Actually, let's hold down Control. We'll unmask this area here. We'll hold down Alt, go to unmask center. And now that my gizmo's there, if I Control tap to mask all this out, I can go back in here, and then we can throw like a ring right there, and then we can go ahead and start playing with subdivides, twist, scale, and coverage here. Yeah, so we can go ahead and start playing with this. If I like that, I can go back into Gizmo mode, scale this down. If I want to keep both of these, I can just, again, mask everything, go back into here. It's gonna, the pivot's gonna set where the new mesh is gonna go. So now I can go in here with the polysphere and make changes however I'd like. Or if I don't like this one, I can go to Sphere 3D. There we go, and go ahead and change that coverage all the way up, and then go hit W to go back in, and now I can kind of put that there. So it's some pretty complex modeling going as far as the primitives that are available to you. Cool. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in R8. If anything, well, I probably don't have to prove it to you, but yeah, go watch these videos here, and then I'll kind of take you a quick run through of what might be interesting to you as far as your workflow and stuff. But let's go ahead and turn our crease tolerance down, turn on dynamic, and now we'll go into my custom menu here. We'll grab a cube in here, and we'll go ahead and split mask points here, and we'll hit Shift D, and we'll go ahead and turn on dynamic, a little bit of Q grid, a little bit of coverage there, and we'll go ahead and rotate this down, and we'll go ahead and shrink this down. So you've got live booleans, you got the new chisel brush, and if you guys, I was showing off the chisel brush to my CGMA students, and they kind of had some good questions here, so let's go over that a little bit too. I got a live boolean here, and so now with the live boolean, it's cutting all the way through because this is an empty mesh here. It's like it's not cutting all the way through nicely, so I'm just going to keep pushing. I mean, you don't have to. You can just kind of barely get this thing pushed in. And the cool thing about live boolean is just make changes on the fly here. If you did want to make copies of this, let's go ahead and hold down Shift and see if we can make that straight across. You can turn on sticky and then Control drag out a copy and then just keep hitting 1. In this case, probably just to make it even less destructive and a little bit more, I can play with it a little bit more. I'm going to turn on array mesh here, and we'll just turn on array mesh. We'll make like a repeat of 5. I'm going to use transpose. So to use transpose, I'm going to hit Y to go ahead and turn off Gizmo mode, and now I can just temporarily use transpose to kind of set the stuff in there. So now I can just really quickly dial in where I want these things to go. And now I can just keep this as an array mesh. It's like, you know what, I don't want 5, I wanted 4 actually. Didn't realize. And also, let's go back into my Gizmo here. I did want all of these to be, this size, and I did want them to go all the way through the mesh like this. So you can kind of just do all this stuff on the fly. And if you ever want to, you can just hop out of the live Boolean mode. And because this is an array mesh, I can go in here and we'll go ahead and turn on lock position, lock size. And let's see if I can just do a quick mirror and weld. Go across the X symmetry here. And now, because these are just instances, we can go ahead and just slide these things here. Let's go ahead and insert single edge loop here, and then we'll go ahead and slide this edge here, and then we can go ahead and let's go ahead and insert multiple edge loops, and we'll just snap one right down the middle, and now we can go to split point. We'll go ahead and split a point here, and then we'll go ahead and Q mesh this polygroup all. And now, instead of using Q grid, I'm going to go just to a smooth subdivision here. And now if I want to tighten up some of these points on the side, we can just use control loops for that, or insets. So we can now go to inset, polygroup all, region, and we can just, let's go into solo mode here. We can go ahead and inset this just to put in a little control loop there. There we go. So now, go out of solo mode here and turn on our renderer again, our live Boolean render. We can get a little bit of a different look, like so. The fun stuff. Hey Thomas, thanks for showing up. Is Helix under the ring? I don't know. Let's check it out. Let's see, live Boolean here. So if you go into W, let's go ahead and I'm going to Alt tap here is where I want to insert my new one here. We'll turn off sticky, we'll control mask, and we'll put ring and radius, scale, divide, twist, divide here. And you're also going to see it's going to automatically flip me into polyframe mode, which is a feature of this new one, so you can kind of see what it's doing. I guess that might be a good place to put it if there was like a, like you could just pull out that one. Although the thing with the helix is, if there is, probably the reason it's not on there, now that I think about it, is you can go in here to the helix and you're going to see it's not just as simple as the other ones here, because there are, under initialize here, there's the radius here you can kind of play with. And then the curve. So putting a curve in there might be a little tricky and maybe not worth it. I don't know. But yeah, there's a little bit more stuff going on with curves and those primitives there. Hey, thanks guys. Thanks for showing up, guys. Cool. Oh, that's a good point too. So if you do want to see this show, this episodes here, the episodic video on demands here, you can go to that playlist there, and you can kind of go back through all the live streams we've done here. And if I back out of this one, the 4R8 playlists are in here, but also if you go to the live stream highlights and episodes here, you can see the ones I do on my channel. If they're of any interest to you at all, we go over a lot of weird stuff. So kind of more of the same, I would say, mostly. So going back here, so you're going to see these transitions on these feet are kind of harsh. So what I can do is I can go in here to my dynamic subdivs. They're not quite smooth, so I'm going to turn this up 1. And those creases are a little bit harsh. So I'm going to go to my crease and change this crease level to like 2. And then Shift D and D again, and that'll kind of start evening those transitions out, kind of giving me a little bit of a softer fall off on those edges there. Let's go ahead and turn on dynamic for this one. And now this one, if I go into solo mode, and again, it's just D and Shift D, I can go ahead and clean up some extraneous edge loops here. So I'm going to hover over this one, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and just kill these ones back here. And then I can isolate these ones, and then I can use my hotkey for crease, and then I'll go ahead and crease those ones. If you want to save a hotkey for crease, just hold down Control, Alt, and tap it, and then save a hotkey for it. Let's see. And you know what? I just did that for the subtractive mesh, not the actual beak mesh, which is in its own group right here. So now for this one, I'll do the exact same thing here, 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 and here. There we go. And now hit D. If you want to smooth the transitions out between these so when we make our union mesh here, let's go ahead and, let's see, Boolean, turn on dynamic, make Boolean mesh here. That'll be our union mesh. And is this our new one, or is this our new one? This is our new one. So I'm going to go ahead and do Control Shift A, and I'm going to go ahead and split hit. And actually, you know what? Let's do this right. I'm going to take this union mesh and just do delete all, and I'm going to take this union mesh, and I'm going to do delete all. So I'm going to go back to my source mesh here, and let's clean this up a little bit. I guess these nano meshes we don't need either, right? And you guys already saw the chainmail, sweet chainmail vests, so we'll go ahead and delete those. So let's go back to this working file here, and let's do a little bit of cleanup work with our start groups and stuff. So this one here, I want to, it's in this previous start group here. So if I go into our live Boolean, I am going to duplicate this one off, and I'm going to make it subtractive. I'm going to shoot it above this one, and I'll go ahead and inflate just to kind of set this up. Now you don't have to inflate. You can go in here. If I go into solo mode, we can go, let's just do Shift D, and then we'll group by normals. And now I have a front and a back and some sides here. So now I can just go into my Q mesh, polygroup all, and then hold down Shift, and I can just kind of pull it along those surface normals like so. And now when I hit D, go out of solo mode, you're going to see I'm just kind of building in a little slot for this one to go through. Now this one, if I wanted to be a separate mesh, again, I'm going to make a new start group here, and we'll go ahead and let's turn off live Boolean, go into solo mode. This one, I'm actually going to put a little stand down here. It's going to hold down Alt and then pull this down, and then I'll just go into my, oh yeah, so this is just ZModeler brush, so I'm holding down Alt and tagging these. And when you do that, that just tags them. You can do QMesh polygroup or single poly. When you're alt tagging, it treats them as a single poly if you want to. And now I can just pull these down. And now I can go through here and I can go ahead and just do a quick crease edge. And we'll just put a little thing that'll go down inside. So when you hit D, that'll dynamically subdivide. Again, these are really harsh transitions. I can go through, and one really quick thing you can do is go under crease bevel, and then you can change your bevel width here. And now when you hit D, that'll kind of just add some bevels here, and we'll just go ahead and change this smooth subdivide up to 3 here. That's one easy way to do it. You can just manually go in and put in control loops as well, depending on how much you want to play with that. But now those are in their own start groups here. Let's go out of solo mode here, go back into our Boolean render. My wings, I want to be as new start group, and hold down Shift and shoot that to the bottom with the bent arrow, make that a new start group. The legs are already Let's take the legs and the feet, and we'll make those their own thing too. So I'm going to hold down Shift and shoot those to the bottom. The feet, shoot those to the bottom. So with the feet, I'll put those above the legs. I'm going to make that a new start group. I'm going to take these legs, make them subtractive, and I'm going to scale these up. So it's going to push into the bottom of the feet. Oh, I also need to do it for the body. We'll do that in a second. And then I can duplicate those legs off, make a new start group. So now we've got the feet. And I'm also going to take these legs here. I'm going to duplicate them off. I'm going to shoot them to the top and move them down one to put them into the start group. We'll do another subtractive. And now that'll kind of cut in. Now I need to make these cuts a little bit wider because right now the cylinder, or I can either make the cuts wider or I can make the legs by themselves a little bit smaller. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into polyframe mode here, and let's go into solo mode. If I do group by normals, and then I do a quick geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld, and then we'll just do Q mesh, polygroup all. And again, I was going to Q mesh these back, but hold down Shift just to kind of shrink them in along that normal. And now it looks like they fit right up in there, which is what I'm looking for here. We got that, we got that. And now we've got also this little thing back here. We're going to do the exact same thing for this. So we can go ahead and, right now it's under the body, which is fine. We'll go ahead and set that to subtractive. We'll duplicate it off. We'll hold down Shift, shoot it to the bottom, make a new start group. And now with our original one up here, we're just again going to go to group by normals. Instead of doing an inflate, which is give me some weird edges down here, I can just go to my ZModeler brush and just kind of hold down Shift and pull along that one. So now let's go ahead and dynamically subdivide that, crease it up, go into our live Boolean mode. I'm just hitting Alt-R, which is my hotkey for that. And it doesn't look like this one's going all the way in. So let's push that in there. And then we'll go ahead and take this one as well, and we'll just push that right in there. And we'll also go ahead and crease this one as well. There we go. So now when we do our union mesh, this thing will be a lot more organized. So now when we do our, what am I looking for here? Boolean, dynamic subd, make Boolean mesh here. And now our union mesh should have 7 start groups here. So now all of these things are separate. Perfect. Now I've got the body here. And I completely forgot. Oh, we're softening transitions. So now with this one here, I go over this a little bit in my YouTube playlist as well, as far as like, well, you know, you can soften the transitions with the Booleans, but you know, where it cuts in, you might have a little bit of a hard time softening those. If I'm just trying to get stuff done quickly, I'm probably just going to do a quick Dynamesh here and then do a quick polish or even a clay polish, and then I'm kind of done. Just like softening those transitions out. If I want to control it a little bit more, I can go in here and do Control Shift drag, and I can kind of mask, you know, the borders out where I want it to go, and I can go into my masking menu here, and I can kind of, let's invert that, and then we'll go ahead and grow that mask, and then invert that. So now I'm polishing just these areas here. So if I turn off View Mask, now I can just go through here. I still have it masked, but you just can't see it. And now I can just kind of polish just along those areas in there. You can also try, you know, if you didn't want to go that route, let's undo back through here. There's a lot more options you can try. There's, you can actually treat this one as another Boolean that you can go through, and you can kind of ring those transitions with another mesh and kind of give it a bevel. You can go through and you can try and even use group loops or extrude, or you can use transpose modeling to give you an edge, and then you can go through here and modify these. But see if I missed anything here. Cool. Yesterday stream is this. And okay. Cool. If you made a foot, the hardest part to do. We have made feet before. In fact, for both, if you go back through, if you go way back to here, unless you're talking about a chicken foot. We haven't made a chicken foot here, but if you go to that one, if you go to broadcast number 1, we go over the anatomy. Broadcast number 1 and number 2, we kind of go through anatomy and then remeshing. And then if you go to, ooh, I wonder if I still have them under highlights on mine. I was kind of rearranging some stuff. Yeah, this one might work. If you also go to this playlist here, we go through a lot. I think episode 1, we go through the anatomy. In episode 3, we kind of remesh the feet and stuff. So that might be interesting to you. But yeah, so this is a much more workable mesh as far as something I want to go in and bake off later. Let's go ahead and delete all. Go back in here. Recreate, yeah, the Joseph Dress joints are pretty cool. I don't see them in here anywhere, but yeah, hopefully there'll be some really cool solution for creating those toy joints. They seem to work really well with the new Boolean operation. Cool. Let's see, draw. And what else we got? What else we got? We got this thing here. This is all pretty much done except for this little piece back here, which needs a little ring on the end. Trying to think the easiest way to kind of put a ring on here. I guess we could use live booleans for that maybe. I'm going to my custom menu here, and we're just going to drag a cylinder right on the back. Let's go ahead and turn on X symmetry. There we go. And we'll go ahead and split mask points. I'm going to turn off the live boolean for now. And I'm also going to be working in this start group. So I'm going to move this down, turn off that start group, and then we can just go ahead. Everything else should be auto collapse. I can hold down Shift and turn everything else off. And now I can just kind of deal with these two things. So I'm going to do Shift D here, and let's move this up and kind of put this here. And I'm trying to think if we want to meld these two things together quickly. Actually, you know, we can probably just use ZBrush. Let's do this. Let's try this. So I'm going to do, you know, we could even use a plane. You know what, let's let ZBrush do the heavy lifting for us. I'm going to insert a plane 3D, and I'm going to go out of, swap to this side here. So with this plane 3D selected, I'm going to go to my deformation here, and we're going to rotate this around the Y. So we're kind of looking at it this away here. So we'll go -90. And I'm just going to push this into place here. So what we're looking for is basically, and I don't need this cylinder anymore. So if I want to do merged meshes here, let's go ahead and Control D a couple times just to get some resolution. I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to go to Masks Perfect Circle, and I'm going to drag out here, and I'm going to drag out another one. I guess we could use shadow box as well, but I'm looking for just a flat plane. Let me go ahead and unmask here, because we can clean this up later. But as far as just making the quick geometry, let's see, hold down Alt to unmask here. And I can also, I don't even have to do 2 of them, I can just do 1 and mirror and weld it, but we'll start with this. We'll hit Control W. I'm going to delete lower, Control Shift, isolate this. We'll go ahead and delete hidden. And just like before, let's go ahead and do our whole mask border, invert that, and then deformations, polish, or polish by features. And now we can just let ZBrush handle that transition for me. So adaptive size down to 0, and then just hit, oops, half. There we go. Easy enough. And then if I want to clean these up, I can go into my clip circle center, and I can just clip these. Hold down Alt. And now I can go in here to QMesh, polygroup all, and I can just pull out. And then if I turn on my floor, you're going to see I can just do a quick mirror and weld across the X, and that'll just give me a straight mirror. And now I can go ahead and do a crease PG under your geometry crease menu. And then I'll go ahead and crease my polygroups. I can hit D for my dynamic subdivisions, and then that'll again give me that shape there. I can also go through here with my move brush and kind of just make these kind of, looks like they're kind of pulled out and back a little bit here. And kind of just wrangle these into, you know, whatever shape I was looking for here. Just another quick mirror and weld. And to even this up, let's go ahead and down through the middle, do insert single edge loop. I probably should have made the shape before I did that. And also, if you want to even make this even simpler, you can just get rid of those ones. There you go. And now you can just do a mirror and weld, get that line back down the center, hit D, and now we're good to go. So we can go ahead and turn all this back on. We'll hold down Shift, and we'll turn on perspective, and that's kind of what that's looking like. Now this one, again, that transition's pretty harsh, and I can Boolean these together now. So because this one is in the start group, these things will Boolean together, which is what I want. However, I'm going to soften the transition on this one here. So I'm going to go to my crease level 2, and then our smooth subdiv of maybe 4. Let's do a crease level of 1. Let's make it really soft. There we go. And then those will Boolean together, and I can soften that transition as well. Did I have LSIM turned on? No, that's right. Let's see if I can mirror and weld this one. Okay, this one's having a bit of problems, so let's go into solo mode here, go out of perspective mode, and it looks like when I originally made this one, it wasn't down the middle, so that's not good. Let's go ahead and scooch this over just a little bit. I mean, I can re-drag it out, but at this point, it's probably fine. And now we need to go back to, that's the start group here. Let's turn off solo mode here. I'm going to alt-tap this one. And now, oh, that was the rendered one that we moved over a little bit. Now I can move this one over to kind of match. Turn off X. There we go. Good enough. Cool. Thanks for showing up. And let me try, okay, so if we were, I haven't even tried this yet on my new machine here. Not new machine, but new, let's see, render booleans, live boolean, external renderer. Okay, yeah, so I should be still set up, but you can go ahead and do your BPR best preview render in ZBrush and do render passes and stuff like that. We have the floor turned on, so it should render through. Yeah, it's rendered through there. It's catching on the floor. If you need to make your floor plane a little bit bigger to catch everything, just go to your draw menu and take this grid size and crank it up. And that way, when you do your BPR render, your floor and stuff will end up out there. But I also want to try, this might be a bad idea, but let's just go ahead and do a KeyShot render real quick and see if that sends it over nicely. I haven't actually tried it yet on this machine with R8. There it goes. Okay, we're in good shape. So we'll send this over and see what changes I might need to make here. And this wasn't with our union mesh, so we probably need to go back in and do that. So I'm going to hop back into ZBrush real quick, and we'll do our quick Boolean. Let's turn on live Boolean here. Actually, if we do live Boolean, let's see, we'll send our live Boolean over. And yeah, so KeyShot turns off the live Boolean here. So what we're going to need to do is turn on live Boolean, and that'll ungray our make union mesh. So now we can make our Boolean mesh here. And now with our union mesh, which is this one, now we can send that over. Turn off live Boolean, render, KeyShot. Yeah, I think we're good. And then we'll scoot back over into KeyShot here. Yay. And now this will be easy. So we're going to go over here to materials. And let's go ahead and do plastic. Let's find a hard, shiny plastic yellow. We'll assign those, and I'm going to take these materials here. We'll keep this one yellow. We'll do an orange to get a hard, shiny plastic orange. Perfect. We'll take this orange here, put it on the feet, and put it on the legs, and put this on the head. And we got metal. Let's go ahead and go to our metals here. And we'll just grab a steel, basic steel polish. You know what? Let's grab nickel. There we go. So So we got our little chick here. And let's go ahead and change this background here. So let's put it in an environment. Here, let's go ahead and go to ZBrush. We'll put him in Barcelona or the Convention Center. Yeah. Or Studio. Or we can even, let's keep it Studio, let's keep it Startup, and let's put a backplate in there. And we'll go ahead and throw him on a little workbench. Without a stick. We don't need a stick on there. That'll work. Just drag that in there. Now that plastic is super shiny. Let that resin a little bit so we can go in here and like crank that roughness up just a bit. Doesn't need to be that shiny. Go to my environment here. Let's turn that brightness down just a bit. Let that settle in there. Anyway, KeyShot works. I'm glad that works. Pretty painless. Oh, I guess for the video on demand, Thomas says about the joints. Some of the articulated joints can be reused, of course, but you need to consider that joints for FDM printers or SLA polyjet printers are not the same. On top of that, you need to consider the scaling of your model and build the tolerances, etc. A global library is problematic to build. Of course, setting these joints is helpful to understand how it is to build your own. Makes sense. I'll update these HDR I did for KeyShot. They're not high enough contrast. Oh, is that what it is? Alrighty. Good to know. Interesting. Is there a way to make a transparent cloth material in KeyShot? Yeah, there should be. If you go over here, let's go to materials here. We got cloth weave. Okay, so here's another thing you do. We have the scene set up and we have these materials the way we like. I can go over here to the scene sets and I can go add a scene set. We'll call this cloth. So that way I don't lose these. I can just go into my cloth here. And now I can do cloth weave onto everything. And let's go ahead and do color material. Let's go ahead and change our background as well. So I'm going to go to my environment here. We'll change this to just a color environment. We'll drop this down. Now if we double click this, under textures, you can load in an opacity texture. Let's right click this, go to textures, and we'll just do a color gradient, a color, vertex color. Trying to think what an easy one would be. Because you can control where you want it to be opaque and where you don't. So if you choose, for example, occlusion, and you also, let's go to material graph here. So with the occlusion here, if you right click here and do preview color, you can kind of see where it's white and where it's black, and then that's being pumped into opacity here. So if we go back to, and you can just hit C for that, you don't have to right click in here anymore. We can turn that off. And that should be, that's turning it translucent where it's dark. So we can go in here and then we can do inside, and that'll kind of flip it. So yeah, you can plug in, if you just want to make it overall translucent under your textures here, just right click here, and I think you can bring in a texture map and then change that. Noise, occlusion, vertex color maybe. You can just dial in a default color and a multiplier here. So if we go here, let's see. Okay, there we go. So now you can kind of dial in on the multiplier how translucent, or if you want it to be translucent, you can kind of dial that down maybe. So a lot of different ways you could pull that off in KeyShot. There's a translucent cloth. Is it possible to give you a custom menu for R8? Yes, it is. Let me make a note of that. If you go to, for example, my Gumroad, and I'm not trying to make you buy stuff off my Gumroad. Most of it's free. The only reason I bring it up is because it's free. You have the intro to ZBrush files. I'm going to update this one. Right now it has the Z startup folder with the custom menu and hotkeys. I will go ahead and update this with R8 as soon as I get off of here. I'll go ahead and update that for you guys. So just go to, I think either QBrush, I'll do QBrush and Gumroad, and you can just go grab those for free. But yeah, right now it's just R7. Sorry about that. It totally skipped my mind. Cool. Awesome. All right. So yeah, we got a little cloth guy here. Now again, because we do have two default, we have the default scene, and then we have the other one here. I didn't lose anything, so all of our cute little stuff is still there. Now let me go ahead and pause this so I'm not taking out system resources. With this render also, I'm using my laptop right now, but since this is a CPU render, you really want to max out your CPU if you can. And Pixel and ZBrush is pretty CPU intensive as well, so get a nice CPU. It can't hurt. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, there's our union mesh. So let's try this. Let me go into solo mode here. You know what, let's just hold down shift and we'll just isolate this thing. So now we still have polygroups in here available to us if we want to modify these transitions as well. So if I hold down control shift, we can isolate these. Instead of dynameshing, let's do the whole, if we isolate these ones and we go into geometry, edge loop, there is an edge loop. You can do a masked border, but there's also edge loop right here with crisp, and we'll displace this out a little bit. We can just go in here and kind of add individual edge loops, and then with those individual edge loops added, you can go in here and go to insert multiple edge loops with interactive elevation, and then you can kind of soften or dig in those things as well. So you can try, let's displace that a little bit more. So you can try that a little bit. So that gives me a little bit more breathing room, maybe a little too much. Let's do this. No, a little more. Boy, this is touchy. Oh, perfect. Okay, so now we can go through here, and we can, well, you know what, it's actually, is it going up? Hold on just a second here. I kind of want that to go in. So what I'm going to do is isolate this one. I'm going to hold down Alt and move that back, and I'm going to just scale that in just a bit. There we go. And actually, it looks like I put in, there we go. Sorry, let's do this one more time. This is what I'm trying to do. So basically, I want to take this one here. Let's do Shift-D. There we go. I've got Alt, this one selected with W, and I want to move these back so I can get a nice big edge ring around there. And now I can go in here with Insert Multiple Edge Loops, and I can just round out this transition as much as I want to. Looks like that triangle has a little bit of a problem here, but you can go through here and manually just soften these transitions. Of course, let me see. Yeah, it looks like these ones are really close here, so I might have to manually go in here and like collapse some of these problems. It looks like it's only one though, so it's not too bad. And if you're having problems getting in there and getting that, you can go to your point, say do nothing, you can go to your face, say do nothing, and now you're just in collapse mode. So there we go. And now when I go to insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. Oh boy, that's doing a number. Oh, there we go. Now I can just kind of divide that up there. There we go. That might work for you. You can also use transpose modeling to go ahead and do a lot of that, but I found that doing that whole edge loop with crisp and just adding a little bit of displacement, it does a pretty decent job. So just isolating these things and then just doing again this edge loop here just to go ahead and add an edge loop, and then you can mask this out and you can scale this back. And then again, just go in here with your insert multiple and just kind of flush those out. Of course, with all these triangles in here, little bit of a problem here, so you have to go and collapse some of those. You can also probably maybe even try like welding with a certain threshold, so weld distance, weld points, maybe something like that. Let me see. Crank that weld distance up. Weld distance, there we go. That's too much. Maybe like 2. Ooh, that kind of actually did it. Interesting. I don't know. I'll play with this a little bit more. See if there's not some other. Chivang came up with another cool one. There's also, you can use ZBrush on some of these things to make it a little bit nicer. So if you grab this one here, you can maybe ZBrush this thing. Now this is for a not additive, it's a subtractive, so we can try maybe making this a little bit nicer by freezing the border in ZBrush. And that'll kind of give me new geometry in here I can play with. I'll have to play with that. If you want to pick up the updated HDRI from ZBrush KeyShot bridge content, they're now high contrast. You have more accurate colors, nicer, more accurate shadows. Cool. Awesome. Okay, let's see if I missed anything here. KeyShot is CPU only. Can you explain or demo what extender does on the Gizmo minute? Yeah, for sure. Let's do that. So let's just start with Polymesh 3D here. We'll hit W, and we'll go ahead and grab this gear, and we'll do a polycylinder. Let me see. Where'd everything go? This is the weird thing where I would need to hold down Shift in polycylinder or Control. I can see it. Where is it at? There we go. Oh, it was just off. Okay, so we got this polycylinder here, and I like it. So let's go ahead and say we're good here. And you know what? Actually, let's swap this out for a cylinder 3D, and we'll go ahead and change that inner radius to nothing. And we don't need that many divides here. So now for we go in here and we do the extender, this will go ahead and extend out and extend up. And you can go in here and you can also scale this down. And you can also move where these cuts are by just dragging this dot around. So you can kind of just extend these things out. And also you can either apply creasing or not. And you can go through this way, or you can go back from this way. And then each one of these things also has scale, extend size, and then over here you can do Y symmetry on and off, and then Y resolution, so you can actually dial in some resolution here. I think I saw Paul doing this one here, so let's go ahead and change this X and Y resolution here. There we go. So now we kind of have this shape going. If we like that, we can go back into our gear and we hit accept. And what else we got in here? We have also the multi-slice is kind of similar to that. If you do multi-slice, you can go through here and you can change you know, where it slices, and then you can move this thing around and you can kind of just throw a multi-slice in here, which is kind of neat. We'll go ahead and delete that one here. And there you go. So now you have multiple polygroups here that you can go through here and add groups, loops, or mask and invert, and scale these things down to get an interesting shape. And I think if you hold down, yeah, I wasn't able to get that to work. Let's see, W. I have to play with these things a little bit more. But yeah, that's the extender. Basically, any shape you choose. Let's go ahead and go back into our Gizmo mode here. And we'll go ahead and reset that. Reset that. Just holding down Alt and tapping these, we'll go ahead and reset them. And then we can just start from the middle here. And we can do polysphere. And then we can go ahead and say we like that. And then go back to our extender. And that should just, it's basically just adding an extension in the middle here, and then you can just drag around where you want to actually extend, and you can go it from the side and the back, and then you can add resolution or scale here, so you can get pretty complex shapes pretty easily, and then adding resolution where you need it. If you don't need resolution there, you know, you can drop that back down. Let's say we like that one. Accept, and there you go. off to the races to do all the cool modellery stuff you want to do here. Let me see, Shift Q W. There we go. There's my brush size. Awesome. Yeah, GPU stuff, KeyShot CPU. You can use Octane as GPU, Redshift GPU, depending on what you have, what your setup is, what you like to use. I like KeyShot and ZBrush because I can just hit one button and I'm over here doing cool stuff really quickly. The other ones I kind of have to jump through some hoops, but that bridge certainly makes it nice. You know what? I don't like looking at that so bright. I'm going to drop this down a little bit. That'll work. And if you also want to, in KeyShot Pro here, I think, you can go in here to add geometry. Let's go ahead and add a plane here. And with this one, we can go into our scene and we now have a plane. We can go in here and we kind of move this thing around here. So we can kind of... Now, if you don't have this option available to you, you can just make a plane in ZBrush and then just import it in and then right-click and hit move. So you have that available to you. So now we can go into the environment here. We can drop that brightness down. And then on this plane here, let's go ahead and add a area light. And you can just do some custom lighting here. We don't have to have it showing. If we go to our camera here, we can say, well, we don't want the camera. We'll do not visible to camera for this particular light, but we can still have this to play with, so we can go ahead and crank up those lumens. And if you want a little more power, change that to watt, and that'll go ahead and give you a little bit more leeway here. So you can actually go through here, and you can change some custom lighting on here. Move this forward here. And we can also drop in a ground plane here. So we can go to File, go Edit, Add Geometry, Ground Plane. The ground plane is for more of a shadow catcher on your rendering side, but if you want to, you can change that from ground to whatever you want. We'll go ahead and make it plastic, make it dark, make it really shiny. We'll crank up the specular here. Now you're going to see that light is being cast in the reflections here. So you can go into that material here and say visible and reflections, and you can turn that off. And of course, it's going to turn off reflections for your character here too. So you can kind of play with some of these to see, what kind of look you want to go for here. But if you do want to have your little chicken reflected in here, you can kind of set that up. Let's see. Well, he says, when I put on a wax preview and then scale up my model, I lose a wax effect. That's interesting. Let's see what that does for me. I haven't actually used wax preview in here. So let's say we want a nice waxy alien shape here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my crease tolerance here to go ahead and crease some of these up. There we go. Let's drop that a little bit more. There we go. So now when I hit D, that'll give us a nice smooth preview here. And now let's go over to our materials and we'll turn on the wax modifier here. We'll crank that up and it's going to tell me for real-time wax preview, go to the wax preview in the render properties. So we'll go up here to render properties, and we need to turn on wax preview. So now we're getting a wax preview here. If I can crank this up, seems pretty strong here. Let's go ahead and make this, let's go to skin shader 4. Is that any better? Not really. Trying to make this look as obvious as possible. So you can kind of see that Fresnel there. So under here, under geometry, boy, let's close some of these menus out here. There we go. You can either go to geometry or you can go to deformation, and you can just do like a size here and just crank the size up and do that several times. And I'll keep getting exponentially larger too. So seem to be having it. I guess if it was scale issued with the Fresnel of this wax preview, I wonder if you need to like crank this up or down in order to kind of, if maybe it gets too big or something, you got to play with some of this stuff maybe, I don't know. Wax Preview is something I haven't played with in a long time. Last time I played with Wax Preview was doing those Age of Booty renders. If you go to, this might be interesting for somebody. Go to Edit Profile here. Nope, not Edit Profile, just My Profile. If you go to my ArtStation page, these were all rendered with the Wax Preview, these Age of Booty characters. This really old one right here was for the Nanomesh tutorials I did for Pixelogic. You might remember this little gorilla mask I put on here. But these things were rendered in ZBrush with the high dynamic range images within ZBrush and using a little bit of Wax Preview just to kind of get that kind of a soft kind of look going here. Let's go ahead and make him bigger so you can kind of see, you can get that kind of nice fall off in here on the skin. So, and this I think was actually before the renderer. Well, maybe not. But when you do render the stuff out, make sure you go into the BPR render pass and you go ahead and grab your shaded and your depth and your shadows and your ambient occlusions, any stuff you have, even your subsurface scattering. Just go ahead and shoot those out as a separate pass so you can go in there and composite those together really nicely. Yeah, the new Gizmo is nice. I still go back and forth between the Gizmo and the transpose line, depending on what I need to do. I still haven't, let's talk about this real quick. Let's go ahead and turn that wax modifier down here. So if I go in here and I go ahead and mask this stuff, so I'm going to go into my ZModeler brush and I'll hover over the face. We'll do, yeah, it doesn't matter, QMesh polygroup all. So if I take these ones here and I go ahead and mask those. Actually, here's another thing you can do. You can hit W and hold down Control and tap, and that'll just unmask this. Now, if I hold down Control and move this out, that'll go ahead. Let's do Shift D. That'll go ahead and extrude. However, when I hold down Control and scale, it won't. I can't get it to work. I can use transpose line and Control. Is it Control drag to pull in that edge loop? So Control Shift. Oh, you know why? Because I'm in move still. That probably is why. Let me see. If I go, yeah, so for scale, that'll definitely pull in an edge ring here for transpose line. But now let's see if we go back in here with scale and hold down Control. Nope. Yeah, I can Control drag out to move, but I can't add an edge ring in here. I got to go back into transpose. Hold down Control with scale selected, and then I can move these back. Anyway, that's something I haven't figured out yet. How does KeyShot handle glass materials? It looks really optimized. Yeah, glass, it does a really good job. If we head back in here and we unpause this, let's do another scene. Scene sets, we'll right click, add a scene set. We'll call this glass. Let's check out some glasses here. I know it's physically correct, so when you're doing glass stuff, if you have thickness to your glass, there's a lot of ins and outs when it comes to glass, and I'm not the world's greatest glass expert here. So if we go over here to our glass, we'll go to clear glass, and we can just drop this off. So there's basically frosted textured window, so basic glass. Let's start with basic glass. We can drop this on the whole object here since we're in our glass renderer. And let's go ahead and go into the materials here. So the refraction index of glass should stay there. I do know if you're doing a liquid inside of a glass, you're going to want to make your liquid a little bit smaller so it doesn't Z-fight or do anything weird with the glass. But the glass, also another thing you're going to want to do is go to lighting and at least turn on, you know what, let's just do full simulation here. That'll allow things like liquid and glass. And you know what, let's also go to our scene here. We'll turn off our plane and we'll go back to our environment and we'll crank this back up to 1 here. And we'll also turn off our ground plane here. So I know things like glass and liquids even, if we go to liquid water, we can drop that on. There we go. And with liquid water and the lighting turned on with caustics and stuff, it'll bounce around here and do some really interesting lighting effects as well. So if you don't have that on, if you go back here to like basic, it's going to turn off. I mean, it'll give you an idea of what it's going to look like, but it won't do all the fancy stuff until you go in here and you turn on caustics and stuff. Now this is pretty CPU intensive, so it might take a little bit longer than other materials to render, because again, it's bouncing, you know, it's bouncing rays all over the place. And you can change these qualities here with your ray bounces, indirect bounces. You can do that on a per material basis. In the lighting over here, you can change this, and also when you go to your render, you can go up here and let's see, change it in your options here. Oops. So you can choose all of these things that kind of dial in the quality you're looking for versus speed versus optimization and stuff like that. I don't have a specific video about KeyShot. I probably should make one. I need to sit down and organize how I would want to go through KeyShot. I've done a bit of KeyShot rendering, mostly for KeyShot, just the smoke and mirrors part, so for approvals, make stuff look really nice, to get stuff done quickly. And it's pretty straightforward program. There's some things that are a little bit more in depth than others, but for the most part, drag and drop, tweaking some settings, and you're pretty good to go for the most part. Yeah, we got a nice cool chicken here. But yeah, so the glass here, I know, so if you do have glass and you do have a thickness on your model, it will, if you have a car, as it was explained to me, if you have a car and you have your windows rolled up and the windows are single-sided, and there's a render option you can turn on to where it'll make it refract as if your car is full of glass, or you can dial in the thickness of the glass in the material itself. So there's ways to kind of play with that a little bit. If we go glass refractive white here, let's see what this does. A little bit of glass here. You can double click this and go into material settings. Maybe this is at the two-sided here. Two-sided off and then two-sided on. You can kind of see the difference in how it treats the different glass objects here. But I don't know, looks like a pretty good glass render. Let's go ahead and throw an environment in here. Let's go to our ZBrush backstreet. There we go. So now you can start getting the environment projections. And if we want reflections, and we'll go into environment here, turn that back on. You can kind of see how this is rendering a glass object in here. And we are cranked up doing our full simulation here. If you just want to do a preview here, you can like turn on interior mode, or product render is usually pretty good for like a quick kind of preview here. Seems to be about right. I don't know. You guys play with that. Cool. Let me go ahead and crank that over. Step back in here. If you sculpted in cracks, would KeyShot pick that up using glass mat? Let's find out. Yeah, it should. But let's do it real quick. So if I go over here to my cubable chick, let's go ahead and make this a quick, turn off blur, turn off project, and we'll just make this a quick, let's do a little bit more resolution than that. Dynamesh this thing. And we'll go in here. I'm just going to take my standard brush, crank up the intensity, turn our lazy radius off, and we can kind of just start holding down Alt, and let's really crank that up here. So we can kind of splinter out like some of these cracks here. You can also, if you have some, let's go ahead and re-dynamesh this. There we go. There we go. You know, I think we actually made some custom alphas in here, or maybe we made a custom brush to where we can capture some of this. In fact, to make this a little bit faster, let's go ahead and just do that real quick. So make a polyplane, go to matcap gray, make it white, go in here. I'm going to go to make polymesh 3D, and now we're going to go to, what am I looking for here? Let's go ahead, turn off smooth, let's divide this thing up a couple times, and I'm just going to make some bullet holes here. And it also looks like we have our wax modifier up. There we go. So now we can go through here, we can kind of dig this in, and we can kind of go through here and make just some fractured cracks out from the center. Let's crank that up. There we go. And we can use the new brush create system, which will be good. So we kind of get a webbed cracking here. Of course, there's tons of alphas you can download for exactly this type of thing here. So don't feel like you need to make them, although it is pretty easy to kind of go through and make. But if you're looking for something very specific, easy enough just to kind of go get a picture and use reference. Obviously, I'm not using that, which would probably help. Okay, so we've got this here. Let's go ahead and I want to do this. I'm going to go into my brush menu here, and we'll use, oh, we haven't even talked about chisel yet. A lot of cool stuff with the layer chisel thing going on. But let's go ahead, you know what, just for funsies, let's go ahead and just clone off the standard brush here. We'll go make this a drag rect. And for this one, we're going to go to brush. Oh, so much cool stuff we haven't talked about yet. And we'll go to from mesh, and this will just give us a, now we made it from a plane, so it's treating it like a vector, but really it's just a, I'm just going to use it as an alpha. And now if we go back to our chick here, we can use this to kind of drag these things out. We'll crank our intensity up to 100, focal shift down to negative 100 here, and we can kind of just drag these little bullet holes out. So we'll go ahead and fracture. So I'll turn everything back on, and we'll send this on over to, hold on, shift, there we go. We'll send this back over to KeyShot. We'll make sure it's unpaused so it doesn't yell at me. And now we can send that over here. KeyShot external render. Okay, we'll send that over. So while that's sending, let's go ahead and talk about that new chisel brush here. And also the multi-alpha brushes are amazing. So what you can do is, so we've got our chisel 3D here, and basically with the chisel 3D, it's got a bunch of vector alphas in here. If you hit B and go to chisel rect, it's got a bunch of meshes in here that are being converted to alpha. So now you can do multiple alphas in one brush, in case you didn't realize that was a thing yet. So we can go through here, just as it's on drag rect, so we can drag these out, we can change the Z intensity. And now if we want to, we can also go in here to brush modifiers, and we can go, you know what, let me just cycle through. We're just going to cycle forward. So now you can just go through here and cycle multiple alphas in one brush. Or also, if you want to, we can change this to a dot stroke. We can go over to stroke, lazy step, and now we can just drag these things out. Let's go ahead and change our lazy step down. And you know, because we're cycling through, it's just going to drag out different alphas for each stroke here. Another cool thing you can play with is the new inflate here. So if I go, let's go into solo mode here. If we go from soft to heavy to soft here, let's go ahead and make my brush size bigger. You're going to see how it's treating that. You can also go down here to the alpha and texture. Let's do soft to heavy. You can go in here to magnify, and now you can magnify your stroke as you're drawing here. Let's go ahead and change that lazy radius down a bit. So now you can go from soft to heavy, and it'll magnify. So see the difference that it's doing. It's magnifying the stroke as you press down, which is kind of cool. Different effects for that. We haven't even talked about vector displacement, which is cool. So we can go into brush, chisel, 3D, and now you can do displacement maps that have undercuts in them. So if we drag this mouth here, you're going to see, let's drag it the other way here. You're going to see we now have these things that have undercuts. You can go back to the mouth bag here, and these things are incredibly easy to make. If you haven't watched the vector displacement videos, we can do some of that too as well. Transmittance, that sounds about right. Thanks, Mordekainer. Will you revisit your helmet test asset or something similar with the live Boolean ZModeler vector displacement maps? Probably won't revisit it, but definitely we'll be using it in the future as we continue to make more hard surface stuff. Can I drag out with lacy mouse but on randomization on the same stroke? That one might be a little bit trickier because you can do that with insert mesh brushes. So if I go to brush insert BI in our curve brush here, where is it at? Where is it? There it is. So you're going to notice in here, there's the vine. So we choose vine 1 of 4, and we go into our brush settings here. Modifiers here. So this one you're going to see is set to variations of 4 starting at 26, which is I think this one's number 27, 28, 29, 30, and then it goes forward through 4, and then it has the variation selector set to random. So now when I do insert mesh brush, it will cycle through these things randomly, like as an insert mesh brush, but not necessarily as an alpha. What you can do is you can drag this on with all your randomized stuff on, and then you can tap off, and you can go to split unmask points, and then you can make that subtractive. And then we can move this back here. Let's go ahead and turn our Gizmo back on. This one here. Go out of solo mode. And now you can use that. It's not an alpha, but you can, randomize multiple meshes as an insert mesh brush along a surface and then do a subtractive mesh as opposed to an alpha. But as far as dragging out multiple alphas along a mesh, I think it's just one per stroke. So we were cycling through that you saw before. Let's go ahead and delete that. With our other brush here, our brush chisel rect. So we were dragging through here. So there's one, there's another one. You can see it's cycling through these alphas, but it's only one per stroke. It's not going to cycle through a bunch of different stuff randomly on the same stroke, I don't think. At least not that I know how to do. But yeah, you can now cycle through the different alphas here. Speaking of, let's do this really quick. So much cool stuff. Let's go to chisel, the chisel brush here. And now this one is just vector displacement with the chisel. And what you may know now is, so as long as you don't lift your brush up, it's fine. It'll cut through just fine. However, when you lift your brush up, it's going to kind of mangle your edges there. Another thing you're going to do if you're doing hard surface stuff is go ahead and go to your tablet pressure here and go to size and crank this all the way up, and this will make it behave very consistently throughout the end of the stroke here. And you're also going to want to go down here to the morph target. We're going to store a morph target, and now when you store a morph target, two things will happen. If we go over here to stroke, you're going to see we now have lazy snap. So when I move, I don't even have to go to the very end. I can kind of start here, and it'll start automatically where I left off. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and subdivide this one so we get a little nicer line here. So you can kind of cut through, lift up, just continue from your stroke. Oops, let's go ahead and delete, store. There we go. So you can cut through, lift off, cut through, lift off, cut through, lift off, and then you can just cut right over, and it'll cut right through. You can also hold down Shift when you're dragging, and that'll drag out a straight line. So if you want to go like straight line, and then you want to leave where you left off and hold down Shift and go like 45-degree angles, it'll do a straight line. If you change your lazy radius down, maybe not that much, and then you hold down Shift. So start your stroke and then hold down Shift and then let go. That'll snap it a little to the end of your mesh. So that way you can kind of control exactly where it'll end up, give or take. So you can kind of play around with that. So that's cool. And basically what that is, if I delete this morph target, we go to BL, the layer brush here, and we crank our intensity up. You're going to see with the layer brush without a morph target stored, as long as I don't lift my pin up, it'll be just fine. However, as soon as I lift it up and start doing this again, it's going to just overlap. Same thing if I hold down Alt. However, if I store a morph target with the layer brush, you're going to see we can brush up and then lift our brush off and then brush up, and it'll stay on that same layer. So same basic principle, only you're using it now with the vector displacement maps. Let's go ahead and turn off live Boolean there. Speaking of vector displacement, well, actually, let's go back to our chick. Where do we leave off with that? Okay, here's our cracks with the glass here. Let's go ahead and go to, let's make this a little less, we'll go to color background here. There we go. Don't save, and then we'll go to here. So yeah, you can see, looks pretty busted up. Sells it to me. Looks like somebody went at it with a Glock or something. Cool. Let's go ahead and we'll pause that. So if we go back here and we do it on time. Okay, we still got some time. So I'm going to go over here to quite a edit mode. We can go ahead and save this one here. I'm going to save out our check real quick. So I'm going to go into my comma key here. If we go into project, you're going to see miscellaneous, and there's a brush 3D template. So you can just start here. This is, I'm going to go ahead and do madcap gray white. And now on this plane here, we can just pull this stuff out and we can start making our own, let's use snake hook here. We can start making our own mesh here. Another cool thing to kind of relax this a little bit is to go to deformation, and there's a relax plane grid. You can kind of tap that and that'll redistribute some of these planes, some of these polygons out to the surface. You also might consider making a polygroup for these areas here. Let's do that again. Just so we can snap these edges back later on. There we go, because now I can isolate these things and then I can go morph to grid just to get those edges straight back. So now I can continue to use snake hook here. We can do like, and you can just manually go through here and smooth these things out. And then if you want to, you can also step back in your resolution here and smooth them out, and then you can go to reproject higher, and that you can, so you can kind of manually go through and change some of this resolution. Let's change this. I don't have smooth stronger in here. Let me grab smooth stronger really quick. Brush, smooth, stronger. Okay. And for that stuff, all you really need to do is go in here to your smooth brush modifiers and change your weight to smooth mode to 1, and that would do it as well. But it's also available to you in that menu. Let's go back down one. There we go. Now again, we need to snap these ones back out. So it looks like we kind of lost our polygroup here. Let me go ahead and just do a quick mask. These edges here, invert that, and again, we'll just go to morph to grid here. Okay, so now they got this shape going. We can go through here and we can use like the Damien standard to kind of cut in a shape here. And then we can use the clay brush here to kind of build up, or clay build up, or whatever you want to use. You can use projection. In the YouTube videos I put out, we go over a lot of different methods for like projection master and ZProject and matchmaker and all sorts of crazy stuff you can do. And because it's let's change this standard brush back to dot stroke here. Because it's a vector displacement, I can go on this backside and do a little smiley face here. So it is going to go ahead and keep all this stuff for us. So when I go ahead and capture this, let's go ahead and do, just so we can go, let's go to brush. Let's do chisel creature, and I'm going to steal this chisel creature brush. I can append it to the end of this if I want to, so I can go over here to brush from mesh, and then I'll go ahead and throw that ours right down here at the end here, or you can delete all these and make your own, or clone it off, delete them and make your own, and all that good stuff. So now if we go to the sphere 3D, and we just divide this thing up, now we can go ahead and drag out our thing here, and you can play with the focal shift here to kind of soften those edges out, as well as, let's change this, you know, I'm probably going to use this as a dot stroke here to kind of just flay this thing out. So now you can do this kind of thing, and always remember, you can always go over here to your modifiers, alpha and texture, and you can turn on that magnify here. We'll change high magnify to like 3, and now we can go, and as we drag that stroke out, I'll go ahead and inflate along that as well. If that's let's go ahead and take that stroke radius down just a bit. There we go. So depending on what you're looking for, you can get that, or you can get a really cool, you know, kind of spines you can do on your creatures here. Super easy to make. Or you can grab this one here, and now you can kind of do these ones. These ones are cool. These kind of scales here. And again, it's just swapping out the alphas. Now you can mix and match 3D and 2D alphas. I go over that in the YouTube videos as well. If you did want to say, let's see, grab the star here and go from mesh. Now we've got the polymesh 3D. Now this one doesn't have a 3D in the corner. This one does because it's a vector displacement. So now we can go in here. We can go, you know what? I want to drag a star through. Now I want to drag a spine through. So it'll use vector displacement, 2D displacement in the same brush just fine. Cool. Thank you, Thomas. yeah, so there's that. And what else? What else? What else? Vector displacement we talked about. Booleans we talked about. KeyShot we talked about. We got our chick here. Glass chick. I don't know if it saved our default if we switch that back over. Yeah, it looks like we lost the material. Oh, I guess I kept cloth. That'll work. Cool. Anything else anybody was wondering about with the new R8 or just in general? I guess I can go to my notes here. Might be useful. I got a ton of ZBrush for R8 notes. That's what I'm using to go through and do some of that stuff here. Oh, text. Text is an easy one. Let's go out of here. And we can go to the Z plugin here. Throw that in here. We can go to, you can do SVG import and text here. So we can do text. Type it in. And that just gave us a new subtool here. So we can go ahead and drag this out, go into edit mode. And a lot of cool stuff in here you can do. You can turn adaptive on and off. With adaptive off, it'll give you more even polygons here. But then adaptive on, this kind of simplifies the shape here, and then you can go through here and you can do all sorts of different fonts. Star Jedi rounded live stream. Let's go ahead and change the spacing out. There we go. And now we can go in here and add the, make the extrusion to make it a little bit thicker. You can add bevels, you can add bevel resolution and then curvature to round them out or dig them in. And now we've got text you can play with. And of course now with this text here, we can go in here and we can do stuff like the bend arc. And we can do, you know, put that all the way around to a circle if you want to. Also the text itself is, let's see, 90. You can also fit this, if you wanted to fit this to like a cylinder or something, you could use twist, or you can use matchmaker, I suppose, and put all that back there and just use matchmaker to kind of snap that text to it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Thomas. Yeah, I'll definitely update. Is there a way to switch large buttons like Live Boolean to a smaller square? That's a UI question I'm not sure about. I don't think so, but when you do go to your custom UI, custom interface, and your config to do like enable customize, and then your custom UI here, I know there is a, you can make, like on a 4K screen and stuff, you can go in there, oh, where is it? I have notes on this. You can make the buttons smaller, text creator. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But there is a stroke pause for our 8 subtool visibility. I don't know, someone else will have to chime in on that one. As far as like making individual buttons smaller, that I'm not sure about. I'm not. Yeah, maybe digging deeper with ZScript and stuff. But I'm a little confused with vector displacement brushes. Do you have to always modify the existing brushes? Because when I try to create a brush, I end up with regular multiple alpha. Oh, so when you're doing your vector displacement, with the vector displacement, in order for it to work, what you have to do is you have to work from this plane. If it's not from a plane, it's not going to do it. And in fact, we can't even do anything to this plane as far as like slicing or ZModeler or Nanomesh or anything like that, because in order for vector displacements to read correctly and like get these undercuts and stuff, you have to start from a plane. So if you're not starting from a plane, yeah, it is just going to do a regular 2D alpha. So you have to go from the plane in order to kind of get that 3D alpha look when you're dragging these things out. Ooh, that's a cool one. I like that one. Yeah, that's neat. Cool surface texture there. So there's that, and let's change that to red drag rect here. And you can also use, if we go back to our deformation, morph to grid back, you can use these alphas in here to kind of start with. You can also use projection master to kind of start with your shapes. All the regular tricks that you're used to. If you can you can either start from here and just kind of drag it out, or you can take this brush here and go Z plugin. No, we got brush to mesh, and that'll kind of give you your that vector plane with this object here. And if we hit W, I wonder if we can cycle through. Yeah, it looks like it. So you can just kind of cycle through all of these things if you want to kind of pick one to kind of modify. So like, so let's say we like this one here, but now we want to go through to geometry. Let's hit reconstruct. Yeah, you can reconstruct geo back. So we can kind of lower this geometry here. We can take this, control click the blur, we'll mask this out, we'll hit rotate, and we'll hold down alt and kind of reposition this pivot. We'll kind of sweep this back and in. And if we want to make this a little bit smaller, let's go to unify here. There we go. That'll make it a little bit more manageable. There we go. So we can kind of modify this alpha here, and then we'll go to our highest. And because we're getting this information from a plane, oops, looks like I kind of busted this one a little bit. Let's smooth this out real quick. Wonder if it had some weird masking or something. But now that I have this thing modified how I like, I should be able to go from mesh. It's going to see it. Oh, you know what? This one didn't. This one, I wonder if we need to. No, it's all the way back. Oh, 7, 8, 9. If we need to go all the way back. Let's test. Let's test. There we go. So now let's see if we do from mesh here. There we go. So now this one is set up as a 3D alpha. This one wasn't, and this one isn't, but this one is. So now this modified one is set up as a 3D alpha here. So now I get the undercuts like this. So I guess it has to go all the way back to a regular old plane. And now, yeah, we can change this to our drag dot stroke and go back to our sphere. And let's just do dots. There we go. Stroke, lazy mouse on, all that good stuff. Interesting. Possible insert a VDM with its own polygroup. Yeah, you can, I suppose you could do, like if you were just going to drag rect, you could maybe mask this out, Control W, isolate it, or not isolate it, or just mask it out. So that way you can kind of control, like, okay, I dragged it out and now I can kind of isolate it like that. But yeah, I don't think it'll manually go through and change the polygroups as you do this. Let's change that focal shift to 0. Like so. Yeah, so I guess you can dictate where you want it to go first and then just mask that out so it just deforms in that polygroup there. Another cool thing we went over is mesh fusion. If you guys haven't done mesh fusion yet, I would suggest maybe giving that a shot too. If we go over here to cylinder, make a polymesh 3D, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with this one here. If we go ahead and, you know what, let's just do a quick group by normals here. And we'll go ahead and do inset polygroup all region. And we'll go ahead and inset this here. So anything with a polygroup, and you can make a polygroup like this. You can make a polygroup like this. We'll go ahead and slice, circle. Doesn't really matter how you make them. But as long as you have a polygroup there, if you go to brush, insert. Now, on this case, you do want to make sure these are separate. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate those and do group by normal, or auto groups. There we go. So now with any polygroup here, you can go to brush, insert. There is these insert half. Where are we at? Where are we at? BI basic. Where's, oh, there we go. Primitives H. These ones have holes in the back. So if I choose this half sphere, I can just drag this one out. And then as long as I don't have Dynamesh turned on, I can go ahead and mesh fusion these together. So, you know, and I was, you know, in the YouTube video, I stole some of Joseph Drust's brushes in here. So we go to brush, insert, not the model kit, I think it was the Boolean kit here. We can go through how I want to duplicate this one off and hit W, and we can just steal one of these cool ones. Like here was a cool one, so I'm going to steal this one here. We're going to go into solo mode, and now I can oops. Actually, before we change this one, let's go ahead and reset this back to home. And now when I steal that one, it'll go ahead and snap it for me. This one I want a hole in the back, so I'm going to go back here, and we're going to delete that one. We'll go ahead and delete hidden. Now we can go to brush. I suppose I can just add it to this one real quick. So we'll do, whoops, didn't want to do that. Hit Q, there we go. Delete hidden. I'll just make a new one. So we'll hit B, create insert mesh new. And now when we go back to this one, because we have a polygroup up here, we can just drag this one out. Let's go out of solo mode here. We can drag this one out. And you can, if it lines up, it lines up. If not, ZBrush will take care of the transition for you. You can mesh fusion these together, and then you can go and use ZModeler brush and clean this up. If you wanted to do inverted, just hold down Alt, and that'll do an inverted version. And like I said before, you can actually move this thing in or out. It'll take care of those transitions for you. So now we can do an inverted one here. We can go to Insert Single Edge Loop. And now you can bevel these things however you want. You can smooth them, all that good stuff. You can do it in radial symmetry, all that stuff. So you can do really quick, smooth transitions between pieces here, hard surface pieces as well, just using using the insert mesh stuff. Yeah, if you want more, since I do talk very fast, this playlist right here will walk you through. I still talk fast, but at least you can pause it, as well as on YouTube. If you hold down Shift and comma and Shift and period, that'll slow and speed up YouTube. So if you go to video, oh boy, 43 and 44, that'll walk you through the mesh fusion stuff there. And that's something I use. I mostly use it for creating insert mesh brushes themselves. I don't use it to modify stuff that much, although maybe I'll start. And of course, you can modify stuff that you've already made into a unified mesh as well, as long as it hasn't modified the topology. Well, even if it has, it doesn't really matter. You can go through there and you can make all sorts of cool stuff just using mesh fusion and stuff like that. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so a question, you can use existing UVs with VDMs. As long as you're just dragging out, it's just deforming the mesh, so it's not going to do anything to your UVs. It'll just kind of deform the mesh. But anyways, it's 8 o'clock. I will catch you all next week. Play with R8. We'll get back into our regularly scheduled playing with stuff and making things after you guys get a chance to kind of sit down with R8 a little bit more. Like I said before, if you go to the YouTube channel here, you can catch more of the previous episodes of this video, but also go up to the their big YouTube channel there. There's a lot more people who are a lot more talented than I am that you can check out. And also this YouTube playlist here, the new R8 stuff, I have that stuff there. You can go check that out. So thanks for showing up, everybody. Hope you have a good time. We went over quite a bit of stuff today, but yes, mesh fusion does replace areas though, so that one probably kills your UVs. Cool. Bye, everybody. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys Thursday on my channel and next Tuesday on this channel.